Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Wednesday, July 7th at 11:34 a.m. We keep this party going every day of every week, barring holidays, of course. But we do this because we have to try and make a difference. You know, everyone has a unique perspective on the markets. I guarantee it. Everyone that follows me, every human being, whether it's not the most advanced perspective, or a highly crafted, well thought out evolution of ideology. That everyone has a different degree of comprehension of what's going on. Everyone has different opinions and perspectives of what the market is and what it's going to do, and that's everyone's opinion is overwhelmingly valuable. So the whole point of this stream is for me to share my opinion and what I think about what's going on. And I sure as hell don't have a shallow opinion. It's in depth and all these fancy observations I have of the markets. I was watching Sven and Michael Saylor last night on YouTube. They did a stream lately, and I'm gonna I, I have many opinions. Michael's a very eccentric person, and I can associate with much of his thought processes. I'm not critical from a personal perspective. I think that's judgmental, and I'm not of that nature. But his opinions are very much aligned with the way I see the markets. It's very obvious to me that the way he describes them are a very reasonable way that I would describe them as well. Talks about four quadrants, and I agree with that. It makes perfect sense. Anyway, that's a video you can watch and see his eccentricity as well as his ideology and very much the way I'm sure most of you view the markets as well. But today's an interesting topic because when I see videos like that and I read content and my own opinions form, and it comes back to the fact that if we do nothing, we're screwed. And that's really a tragic reality that I feel confident and comfortable saying that's the case. And that's another reason why I do these streams, man, because so many folks are just indifferent. It's either indifference, oblivious, just don't care about trying to understand this system in which we exist. And it's a system of control, obviously, and simply need to think in terms of how you would run a country and you would organize a people and how you would coordinate work and effort, and money is a means of coordinating work and strategically encouraging productivity of a population. So it's an engineering project, really. Money's a technology that that helps strategically deploy a population to be productive, as mentioned. Let's get in. I know you guys have a lot of comments. I want to hit your comments. I want to talk about my ideas and my thoughts today that spurred this stream title. A market of extremes. What are the options? We got a lot of options, and we sure as hell know the market is filled with extremes. Crazy market. Today's episode is sponsored by Change Angel, the non-custodial swap exchange for social good. Stop depositing on exchanges, not your keys, not your crypto. Non-custodial DeFi or nothing at all. Bam, let's pop it over to the main screen and see who's in the stream. We got George in the house, ding ding. Noah, quick question from me. CVXCRV APR is now at 60%. Will be a good strategy moving forward. 60%? 60%? 10 years just went to 1.3%. Banks are offering 5 basis points, 0.05%. 60%. 60% is a massive, massive, massive number. I know my perspective. 60% changes lives. It's massive. Now, the whole thing is folks are looking for asymmetric appreciation, which I expect Curve to eventually do, which is obviously the base component of CVXCRV being a derivative of the Curve asset and of the E-Curve position. But I don't encourage that behavior looking for maximum money. We're not, I don't look for maximum gains. I am not trying to turn $10,000 into $10 million or $1 million into $50 million. I'm not trying to do that. I need peace of mind. I need comfort. I need conviction. I need to be able to know that the positions are well thought out and I've allocated capital rationally. So I'm not looking for 10,000%. I'm not looking for 5,000%. I'm not looking for 1,000%. You want to play the gambling game, you go over to Adamant on Polygon. You're going to get some gains over there, but you're also going to be exposed to highly volatile assets. So you might be getting that 10,000%, but then your base components of the LP position could drop 50%. So what was the point? I don't need that volatility in my life. I don't need that anxiety in my life. So I very much think 60% is an extraordinary number. Realty Income Corporation, last I checked, was 4.18% yearly, paid monthly. And that's the darling of the REIT space. That's the I love you REIT asset. So 4 these numbers are single digit percents in legacy finance, and we deal with double digit percents. It's an extraordinary number, 60%. Matthew's in the house, Iren, Klaus, RJ, Mark. Interested to hear talks on Ohm. Not something that's on my radar at the moment. I'm actually trying to get some NFTs. There's a new super rare that I'm going to try and purchase. I'm trying to purchase this new super rare NFT. This thing's crazy. It's just provocative, a little bit erotic, and obviously just jovial in nature in many regards, but also a bit it's emotion inducing and controversy inducing, and I don't know, man, this thing looks crazy. So I popped an offer down, and we'll see if I could grab a super rare NFT. This thing looks crazy. Ride the E train with Andre. That's so cool. I mean, he's got a shake weight in the back corner. This guy's in a bikini with a helmet on, and this guy's licking glass. That's so crazy. This kid's in a pig. His head is off. This is crazy. This is just the subtleties and the advertisements. And this is the 7 train. And that's crazy. So this is just the subtleties in this NFT are quite fascinating. And it's an endless loop, which is really cool. Well, we'll talk with the Bitcoin chart in the backdrop. Let me hit your questions. Good morning. What are your opinions on crypto IRA, creating a self-directed IRA? Well, if you're looking from a retirement perspective, that's a meaningful thing to consider. Self-directed IRA. I have no interest in waiting to 59 and a half years old in order to access capital gains, so I'm much more interested in paying my capital gains tax. Klaus von Bob, anyone have thoughts on Luna Terra? Well, stablecoin. And other apps are coming to their chain. That's it. There's plenty of stablecoins. I expect some significant regulation of stablecoins, and I expect these platforms, all these platforms, a little toss up what's going to happen with regard to the interventionists, what the government will want to do and how they want to regulate them. I mean, it's not necessarily for our protection. CFTC will regulate the commodities, and SEC will regulate the securities, and CFTC will regulate the futures markets, FTX, Binance. So there's a lot of unknowns, but it comes back to the title of the stream, and my ideology that I tell you guys all the time. I mean, if you're in dollars, you're screwed. Dollars are a transitory, transactional payment system. It's not money. By definition, dollars are not money, losing 22% a year in value. So done, done, period. So it means you can't keep your money in dollars. And that's why I've been talking about short-term T-bills, 3-month T-bills, or you could go out longer. You get the 10 years. So I have some 10 years as well. But my liquid capital I want to denominate in treasuries. And you get a credit card, you attach your credit card to your brokerage account. At the end of the month, when you get your credit card bill, you sell some treasuries to pay your credit card bill. Your income from work, you buy T-bills. So your liquid capital is in T-bills instead of cash. And from an investment standpoint, clearly that's what we talk about from a crypto perspective. So T-bills, the reason I have no interest in deploying capital to cash, I have no interest in buying cash. So cash is just an asset. You choose what to buy, Don't have to buy cash. It doesn't look like a good asset to me. Can you imagine in the crypto space, 22% increase in circulating supply? It'd be like a shitty asset. Nobody would buy it. So why are people buying dollars? Just because you're given dollars doesn't mean you have to. Yeah, you should, or you can think of that. The company is buying you dollars, choosing the asset for you, and giving them to you. But it's just an asset that was bought and given to you. I think almost every other asset is more palatable than dollars. And best expressed by the fact that I don't want to hold dollars and I'd rather hold treasuries and bonds. Because during a deflationary event, if the broad equities markets collapse, which, I mean, you just have to watch Sven wedges. At some point, we should have a massive contraction, and then those treasuries are going to skyrocket in value. We'll see 30, 40, 50, 60% increases in value. And the bonds turn to the risk on play. And you could sell them and turn double your cash or 50% your cash. That's a big deal. And then you could buy assets because then the assets, what happens when you have a deflationary event in legacy finance? The intervention is the Fed steps in and they print, 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 print. And frankly, QE makes the bonds a good bet anyway, because QE is deflationary. QE, they're buying the bonds, they're buying the bonds, they're buying the bonds. So the bonds are never going to really go down in price much because they can't let the interest rate go up because they can't service the debt. The debt to GDP is through the roof. They can't pay the bill, so that what they have to do is devalue or decrease the interest that they need to pay, which means they need to increase the price of the bonds. And they don't want it to go negative. They don't want the yields to go up, but they can't let the yields go up because they can't pay it. They don't want it to go negative because then it looks like the system is basically destroyed, which it is. They just don't want to give that appearance. So, they're walking such a tightrope at the Fed trying to make sure that bonds don't go negative and don't go up. They can't pay it if it goes up, and if it goes negative, it looks like garbage. So I don't know, man. I wouldn't want that job. So what'll happen is, in my opinion, and many very smart contrarian thinkers' opinions, like Stephen Van Meter and other folks, Jeffrey Snyder, um, that there's a good price floor in bonds. And then in a deflationary event, the broad equities contract for technical reasons. Doesn't even need to be, a systemic reason, but it could be a liquidity event. Bonds go up because where does capital go when those types of assets are sold? It goes to cash and bonds. Cash is melting at 22% a year, which means that cash can't sit. You sell you $1 billion worth of assets and it's worth $780 million next year. You got to deploy that cash really quick because you're losing almost $1 million a day, a $220 million loss in a single year. So you're losing a lot of money just holding cash. So you got to deploy it. So you can deploy the bonds, and bonds become the risk trade. So you can see that right here. Check this out: U.S. 10-year. If you look at the 10-year on the weekly, bam, interest rates collapsed about 78% in about 2-3 weeks, and the bond price went up significantly. So when you have a deflationary event, bonds become the risk trade. And then look at this massive lick on the weekly. Then they were sold, 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 sold. So you make your profit. System collapses, bonds go up, you sell for cash, and you buy some other stuff. And then bam, the whole system goes back the other way, and the Fed inflates away the issues. Papers over the cracks. Absolute insanity what they do. Killis in the house. Well, when the lockening taking place, that's happening every day. Follow Convex on Discord. You'll see their metrics, and it's pretty extraordinary. Uh, the metrics that they are displaying. Thoughts on taking the SIE exam? Well, what is the SIE exam? I could Google it real quick. It's a nice exam. I mean, you could learn this information without taking the exam. Security Industry Essentials. That's cool. I mean, do you want it for yourself, or do you think someone's going to pay you because of the knowledge? Because if you want it for yourself, just study and learn it, and then deploy the information for yourself in order to best express the way you view the markets and capitalize on the volatility and the insanity that are the markets that we're staring at. Absolute insane markets. Kill us. Where can I start if I want to look into the CVX CRV thing? Links, videos, can you suggest? Well, Convex. Convexfinance.com. Convexfinance.com. I'd probably start on Twitter. You go to Convex Finance. Check out Convex Finance. Check them out on Discord. Here's their Discord link. It's right there. They retweet everything that's meaningful, and Masari is renowned for their data analysis. You got some great data to go off of, and Badger's hooked up with Convex, and really it's the Curve ecosystem. It's Yearn, Convex, Badger now, and Curve, and Stake DAO's in there. They provide Curve derivative assets, so it's the Curve ecosystem really. And Curve has more capital than Aave, and it's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. So that's the Curve story, and you can take a peek at that. It's a learning experience. Everything we do is learning, and I've discussed this in extent over the year. But we all have to come to our own understanding of even the things I talk about. It's not for me to explain it. We all have to individually digest this stuff. Um, Yellow Mellow, have you played the Axie Infinity game? No, I have not. Yeah, have I played any NFT card games? Yeah, I play Gods Unchained. I have a very nice Gods Unchained deck. I bought last year for like nothing, and now it's worth a lot of money at this point. These NFTs just retain their ETH value and just go up in price. Extraordinary. Haha, that's the coolest NFT thing. Oh my God. Yeah, is that crazy or what? Yeah, I got to get this thing. I hope I don't have any more capital. Like I put in this offer for 4.235 Ethereum. I got nothing left. I got no free capital left. So either this is accepted and I win this bad boy, or it's just not going to happen because I don't have anything left. Um, yeah, it's pretty freaky. It's freaky. It's evocative. It has a erotic component. You know, it's like watching a Saw movie in an NFT. I don't know, something like that. It's freaky. So that's what creates value, uniqueness. Clearly scarcity, but uniqueness and emotional responses that it causes. Hey, was looking into DeFi Saver the other month, and your Discord message about it last night got me looking again. Seems like a good place to park single assets and forget. Well, bear in mind, there's no such thing as really parking assets and forgetting in the crypto space because you have opportunity overload. So you end up parking your assets. You'd be like, where else am I going to put them? Because there's always a better opportunity. So it's really hard to figure out where to deploy capital because there's always so many other things that are drawing your attention as potential lucrative places to park the capital. It's not easy. And that's where the uncertainty comes in. You're like, maybe I should sell it. Maybe I should buy it. Maybe I should do this and that. So the hardest thing in the crypto space is to peer through the madness of opportunity overload and find conviction in a particular place that you've deployed capital and hold it for a long period of time. Can you imagine holding it for years? That's a crazy notion. It's not easy, but that's what we talk about. But I like DeFi Saver. Never really used it to the extent of its powerful functionality, but I like DeFi Saver. Um, Dominic, what's the biggest difference with the major stablecoins? Well, Tether is predominantly commercial paper-backed short-term debt. So it's basically partially collateralized by fiat, minorly collateralized by fiat. So it's most analogous to like DAI, where it's a collateralized stablecoin. Um, the closest thing to a decent implementation of a stablecoin, according to what um, Kalen Long would say, is probably Gemini, GUSD, one-to-one backed by dollars in a regulated depository account. USDC is pretty good, but they're tempted to deploy the cash to generate revenue. So USDC and GUSD, those are the two things that are really like closest to a one-to-one dollar-backed stablecoin. I like DAI. DAI is highly backed by USDC, and it's obviously collateralized by risk assets, crypto risk assets. So DAI is cool, and Frax. I bought a nice FXS, well VEFXS position. So Frax is really cool. So I took a position with Frax. Um, Programmatic algorithmic stablecoin that's been around for a while, and this is actually where Titan forked their code from. So these boys, look them up on Twitter, do your due diligence, and they're very smart. And the documentation is really cool. And the integration of VFXS, which is basically a modification of Curve's implementation, is pretty cool. The FXS is pretty much a deflationary asset. So that caught my eye, and it was enough to warrant conviction. Because that FXS is locked for 4 years. So I pop like 30 grand in there, and I'm just going to forget about it for 4 years. I can't do anything about it. I couldn't liquidate it if I wanted to. So that's locked. That's locked, baby. Mike, no, what do you think about Wyoming being the first state to approve a DAO? Good. First state that gets its act together and does what's good for the population. So they need to move forward. They need to have clear regulations. So otherwise, people are just not going to do anything in the U.S. They're just going to deploy stuff overseas, which U.S. citizens are going to interact with anyway. Uh, I mean, VPN, you could do anything you want. So what is regulation? They need to philosophically change the way they approach everything. The problem is these people are so old. They just are so out of touch with reality. How do you regulate something that's unregulatable? How do you ban Binance and the entire population in the U.S. is still interacting with Binance? What does it even mean? They're so departed from technology that their efforts are moot. Their efforts are futile. They can't do anything, and they don't do anything. So recently they got the banking systems to impose indirect regulation on Binance to get its services out of countries. So they'll do what they want to do, and they'll do what they think they can do. But that's the volatility. It goes up, it goes down, but in the end, that's why, from a risk perspective, these assets are extraordinary. They'll go up and down, but the whole time you're generating revenue. So it really changes everything. So for me, bonds instead of cash, and the crypto assets. And if you want to diversify, by diversification is just a lack of conviction, as many people would argue, and Buffer would argue. But there's plenty of securities as well that I think are good plays. And Saylor talks about tech stocks, and I'm like, not my cup of tea. I'm more of a battery metals miner kind of guy for the asymmetrical securities return, which is basically a tech stock because they're tech. You require technology in order to mine these battery metals more efficiently, more cost effective, make more profit. And making batteries is a technology play. So technically, it's all technology. So that's the tech play that I like, battery metals mining. Tech play. That's right. I said it. Aave and Compound are both launching lending for institutions soon. How do you think this will change DeFi? How will this affect the rest of us? Unknown how the crossover will be between capital from institutions and capital from the general public. Aave V2 versus Aave Pro. I don't know, but whatever it is, um, lending in legacy finance is stupid, and people are starting to see, and institutions and hedge funds and money managers and family offices are starting to see that they could do things less stupid and more innovative and new age and do things that are cool and interesting. Everything old is boring. New. I haven't seen any new products and services from legacy finance that's interesting. Nothing is interesting. Was it fintech? Boring. Boring. Then the crypto is where it's exciting and interesting, and cool and new. You bring up the old articles about the way the newspapers talked of the internet in the 90s. These folks have no idea what they're talking about, have no idea what they're in for. I mean, a lot of these check, got to look at this market from a 10-year precedence or a 10-year hindsight perspective. Look at the market as you would be looking at the market 10 years from now, looking back. Envision that market. This is the place for myself to deploy capital. Thank you very much, everybody. Killis, you're very welcome. Brian, how do you get into Curve Compact? How did I get into Curve Convex? Well, I owned Curve for like 30 cents back in March of 2020. I was one of the first liquidity providers for Ren BTC when Ren launched their Ren VM dark nodes. So I've been with Curve for a long time. That's how I started. And I've had my VE curve position since the Dow launched, and that's it. I see it in a sea of opportunity as the most effective means for me to deploy a business or model my portfolio as a balance sheet and operate it like a business, to have a continuous revenue stream which allows me to draw a salary, and I could accumulate my tax obligations and take the tax obligations out next year, and I could take my salary out this year if desired, or I could just hold it and let it accumulate. But that's my optionality and prerogative. But the whole point is the asset goes up and down in price, but the whole time I'm generating a revenue stream. So Convex has been quite depreciative. It was up at $20 for a while. Curve bounced today big. I have the curve charts up, but what's it at? $2.03. Woo! I mean, it broke out versus Bitcoin. That's Bitcoin, and here's Ethereum. So that's a nice breakout to see, boys and girls. So I have more conviction in my curve position than ever before. I mean, it's just the reflexivity, the lockening, convex, what it's doing, the circulating curve supply is just gobbling it up. And CVX is really like a leveraged curve position. Volatile, no doubt, but one CVX is representative of like 6 CRV votes in the curve Dow. So that's powerful. That's power. And what happens is over time, power will manifest in its value. It's valuable to be able to vote on curve Dow votes. That's power. So power is valuable. So that's my curve interest. I see it as the easiest play and the best play because it taps an entire market. Everyone's running around, even in a bearish market, more or less, that we're in. Everyone's running around exuberant. It's the lesser degree of exuberance as compared to a bull market. But there's $245 million a day in transaction volume, and the platform Curve is generating $116,000 a day. I want a piece of that. I want $5,000 a day. So how much do you have to own in order to get $5,000 a day in income? Now, I don't have $5,000 a day in income, but that'd be nice if this daily volume was $20 billion a day. So if I make like a fair amount a week, but if that weekly revenue on 3 curve goes 100x on the money, I could care less what the curve price is. So I've said on Twitter that the curve price is irrelevant. Who cares about the curve price? I care about how much weekly revenue I'm getting. Dollar denominated 3 curve revenue. That's a big deal. Dominic, the SIE exam is the prerequisite exam before you take a Series 6 or Series 7. You really want to sell securities? What a waste of time. I mean, frankly, that's actually quite a. I find it disturbing. Who the hell am I going to sell securities to? Am I really going to sell a security to someone that's up what it's up? It just feels like it's wrong to be able to sell securities to people in a market like this. I would hate to sell a security to someone that's going to crash. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a Series 6 or 7. I'd rather just be a financial advisor or a financial planner and help people make rational choices, which is exactly what I do. This entire stream here is a conversation of financial planning and rational considerations on options that we could take with our capital, considering the state of various markets. We talk about treasuries, we talk about cash, we talk about securities, we talk about risk assets and the roles or crypto risk assets, and we talk about the roles that they play in a well structured portfolio to be deflation protective, inflation protective. This is an entire conversation of financial planning. That is a certified financial planner exam, which is interesting, but that just shows credibility. But what shows credibility more than a rational conversation? Plus, you need like 2,000 hours of financial planning experience just to take the examination. So, anyone can, it doesn't matter the title. I don't care about the title. What I care about is the content and helping people. And that's what matters to me. Do you know the hype tomb finance? No, I do not know about hype. I have no interest in hype, my friend, so I do not know anything about it. If DeFi APR includes a per block equation, what's the best way to calculate ROI? I mean, they tell you what the ROI is, my friend. Return on investment. Well, if you put in $1 million and you're getting $3,000 a day, think of it as a pizza shop. You bought a pizza shop for $1 million and you're getting 3 grand a day. The pizza shop, the land property collapses and it's worth a half a mil. You're getting 3 grand a day. You're getting your salary. Salary is all that matters, boys and girls. The salary. So the pizza shop analogy is really where I'm at. George, where does the VEFXS revenue share come from? Well, look it up. It's really cool, the documentation. You go to documentation. You go look up FXS 1559. This is how it's a burn, so it's a deflationary asset. So they're buying FXS from the market and burning it. So as well as providing part of that purchased FXS as yield on VEFXS. Read the documentation, and here's FXS as well, frac shares, and it's great documentation. It's wonderful, and this caught my eye right here. This FXS 155555559. This is a heck of a protocol, so that caught my fancy. Just keep it going. Keep it going. Benja in the house. Hey, no, I haven't been here live lately. Good to hear again. I'm always here, man. 5 days a week. What? Thanks for the answer, Noah. Do you use on-chain analysis tools like Nansen? No, I follow Willy Woo, and I let him tell me how awesome the market's doing. But I'm not a trader. I'm not going to buy and sell. I got Bitcoin and cold storage. Harvey, Curve represents the future of centralized decentralized banking. I mean, everyone's going to use it. I mean, those when the V2 pools come out permissionlessly, ooh, this is going to be exciting in the next couple months. This summer is going to be crazy. Chaos Lord. I like the dividend narrative, but in the end, is the total return that's important? No. Can you have yield all your life, but it's just returning your original capital? Well, I guess this has to do with the longevity of a business. I mean, the demographics of a neighborhood change, and a pizza shop might not be a viable business. If culturally people are buying pizza today, but the demographics of a neighborhood shift, and all of a sudden nobody's buying pizza anymore, damn, the life's and the pizza shop's not going to be worth that much because it doesn't have much business. So pizza shop might not become a viable business in the neighborhood depending on demographic changes, cultural changes. So businesses have lifespans as well. That's why really you got to look at this capital as a business model. Maybe look at it from a real estate perspective and a building that you're renting apartments, but in 50 years the building needs to be torn down because it's no longer a viable structure. That's not going to be good for overall business. You're going to have to rebuild the building, and that's a heck of a capital expense. This is where you take on debt at 3% for 50,000 years. I mean, 3% debt for 30 years, that's pretty crazy. So you just borrow money, and then the federal government just gives out money nowadays. So it's not a dividend narrative, business model narrative chaos. Nuno, hey no, I hope you're doing well. I'd be trying to learn about risk. Is there any liquidation factor that we should learn about before staking? There is no such thing as liquidation. It's a revenue share asset. You own a part of the platform transaction fee revenue stream. Um, Risk is everything. You know, when you playing with MakerDAO and you playing with Aave, whether it's a stable or variable yield product, on MakerDAO you got to look at the collateralization ratio on Aave. You got to look at the health factor. So you got to be careful. Risk is everything. And I'm not a fan of LP positions anymore. I don't provide any liquidity unless it's stable coins and you have zero and permanent loss. But even like V2 curve liquidity or V3 Uniswap liquidity, I have no interest in providing liquidity. It's just off my radar entirely. But I want to extract capital gains from every person that provides liquidity. And Popsicle Finance, truthfully, is doing something like that, but at very early stages, there's no revenue stream yet, and they're still building out the protocol. Whereas Curve is years in the making. This thing is a well-evolved protocol. It's pretty much a predictable revenue stream. So you can model it as a business. It's not unknown. It's not speculative. It's speculatively going to be an even better revenue stream in the future, but it's not speculative that it's currently revenue stream. It is a current revenue stream. Popsicle Finance is a speculative revenue stream for the ICE asset in the form of NICE, and we talked about that on Discord. We've talked about that. Nuno, I talked about the risks. George, thank you, sir. We'll read it. You got it. Yeah, FXS 1559. It's interesting. It's just me mentioning things doesn't warrant taking a position. We have to do our due diligence, and I thought this was worth 2-3%, 1%, whatever. 1.5% of the portfolio, give or take. Just bought my first shares in my pizza shop. Thanks for the clarity. Well, this is the analogy, and you're very welcome. It's not for me to advocate for a position. There's plenty of people that are in my Discord that have large Ethereum positions and large Bitcoin positions, and they stake them, and they're getting 4, 5, 6%. And there's plenty of ways to deploy capital that is less risky. And obviously, I talk about stable coins and just telling someone new to the crypto space to take stablecoins and put them on Aave. That's how you get your feet wet. Or maybe dollar cost average into Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's a great way to deploy capital. So nothing I really say is ever a recommendation. It's just a conversation about what I find interesting and what other folks find interesting. And I try and steer, just as you say, Nuno, I try and steer people away from excessive risk, like 10,000% APY. No, that's just not encouraged. I didn't play with Titan, boys and girls. That shit was crazy. That was crazy. So steer clear of risk. You want less volatility in an already volatile market, in a max volatile market. So avoid the risk. Ding ding, Frax FXS is a revenue stream share too. Yes, the EFXS. As you read this, it's a revenue stream based on the stability of Frax. They buy FXS with excess collateralization. There's risk involved with everything, but I find this documentation quite interesting. So read the documentation, and maybe it's right for you, maybe it's not. Maybe you just want to have 5% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, the rest in dollars, and own some bonds, and you want to lose 22% a year to debasement. Everyone has to find their own path and their own way. So if you have questions, that's what this stream is for. If you're thinking about doing something, you ask and you get other people's feedback. And that's why the Discord is great, because it's not just my feedback while I'm talking in my 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 fabulous monologue. In the Discord, it's everyone's feedback. You say what you want to do, and folks will tell you what their opinion is, and then you could bounce that idea around in your head and maybe change it, maybe do it, and but you need feedback. Legacy finance is devoid of feedback. What are you going to pay a financial advisor for feedback? No. What you need is rational conversations, groups of people that are all in the same boat, making the same choices, the same decisions for themselves and their families. Dialogue. So Discord is more powerful than this stream. But I am happy to do this stream day in, day out and help you guys to the best of my abilities. This stream will always be free. This is the way to do it, boys and girls. Let's wrap up the stream today, 12:15 p.m. on a Wednesday, July 7th. As always, it's much a pleasure to speak with everyone. Take less risk. Be more rational. Don't over diversify. Don't spread too thin. Don't go all in. Seek out revenue streams. Protect the upside against inflation. Protect the downside against deflation. We talked about treasuries. We talked about cash as a melting ice. It's melting ice. So we have to do something. So let's figure out what to do. We figure it out together. And we'll talk about this on the stream every day. I wish you all a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.